So one of the nice things about building in Terraria is you can pretty much pull from any source you can think of, from previous builds of your own, something you see on Reddit, your favorite show, your favorite game, but sometimes you're going to pull from something a little bit different, like a tabletop game. That's right, I'm kind of a nerd, and I decided to finally pull a build from the wonderful world of Warhammer. Hey Terraria fans, welcome back to another speed build video. Guys, in this one I'm going to be trying my hand at a build from the Dwarven race within the world of Warhammer. Now this is the classic Warhammer, not Warhammer 40k. But in any case, we're going to be trying to make a Gyrocopter. Now, if you don't know the world of Warhammer at all and you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay. Basically, a Gyrocopter is this kind of helicopter-y looking thing. And yeah, it looks like this. I know, it's quite impressive. Anyways, as you guys know, I do really enjoy making some of these more mechanical style builds, and I thought this would be a really interesting challenge. Now, if you are familiar with the world of Warhammer, guys, I do hope that if you're at least familiar with the Gyrocopter, that you at least think I did it justice, because this thing had its challenges. Like I said, it has a couple of elements that were a little bit trickier, but overall, I think we ended up with a pretty good final product. Now, speaking of familiarizing yourself with things, if you'd like to familiarize yourself with some of my builds live, you guys can do so by checking out the Twitch channel. Link is down below. And additionally, guys, of course, if you're enjoying any of the content here on the channel, please feel free to hit the like or the subscribe or the little dinner bell thingy so you can know when the next video hits the old YouTube universe. And because you know it helps out in the old YouTube algorithm and will hopefully attract a few more people to find us who are actually interested in building. Also, because it's free and I will love you. Anyways, that's enough for me. Let's get to the build, shall we? All right, so with our Warhammer inspired gyrocopter now done, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and cover all of the materials like I promised at the beginning of this video. Now, as always, I do encourage you to pause the video here if you would like to get a closer look at any of the materials, walls, or paints that I did decide to use, in case you want a sort of a cheat sheet or a snapshot for a similar design. But with that said, guys, all you're really gonna need is gonna be, well, a pretty simple metallic palette, and that includes things like these walls of tin and copper, as well as cog wall. These are really simple to use and really fit the design, in my opinion. We also decided to use some disc wall, which is a little bit unique, but I wanted something a little bit different throughout, and I think this has a nice sort of circular touch to the design, which maybe isn't a entirely necessary element, but one that I thought looked pretty nice. Beyond that, unsurprisingly, the rest of the wall choices are very straightforward. We use some stone slab, some boreal wood, some wood wall, and of course some spooky wood wall. For the back fin, we did decide to use some sail, which I think is also appropriate. But for the most part, the design choices are fairly straightforward. Now, similarly here, I'm going to use a lot of the same kinds of things, including some tin plating, some copper plating, and some cog. Again, we're going to go for that metallic look, and I think these are essentially a must. Additionally, to keep with that wood theme, we went with some dynasty wood and some spooky wood. I think I could have maybe changed these for something else, but I did like the way that these looked. I think you could use some wood or maybe even some ebon wood, but these are pretty good choices in my opinion. Palladium column and some stone accent slab were also used, as well as some junction boxes, just to give a little bit of kind of gear-like effect. And then we used some platinum brick wall for piping, and for some details, a bit of yellow team block, which I think works pretty well with the overall colors, which I guess we'll get into the paints now, which is going to be a lot of deep green, which I think works fairly well, but perhaps I could have gone with a blue or maybe even a red. Moving on, we also used some gray. Of course, we used some yellow, some white, some brown, and some black. And then I made fairly good use of our illuminant coating and our echo coating just to hide a few odds and ends. But yeah, there you go, guys. There are all of the materials and paints that I used for this design. Of course, you can swap anything in and out as you see fit, but this should encourage you, or hopefully encourage you, to try something similar, and you'll have all of the materials that you would need, or theoretically would need, for something very similar. Anyways, with those materials covered, guys, let's move on with the rest of the video. All right, so there you go, guys. There is our gyrocopter done. I think it has a lot of really funky elements, and it's got a kind of nice design. Of course, having an actual reference picture to use really helps with this, because it's not quite as straightforward as it maybe seems in a speed build. I had a lot of different things to cut out and move and retry, so especially the framing and the actual size of the gyrocopter itself, it just felt kind of out of proportion, and getting those proportions just, it took me a minute. Now, that said, there were plenty of things that went right with this build, and for starters, it's going to be around all those mechanical elements. So the propellers on top and on the back, and even underneath, they just turned out really nice in my opinion, and also weren't that hard for me to put together. They just kind of came together quickly, and I think overall just really fit the design and the build, or I guess the aesthetic that you would think of for this sort of dwarven gyrocopter build. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with them. The other thing that I do also like, but I did struggle a little bit with the proportions, that is going to be that little fin on the back as well. I initially had it way too big. I shrunk it down, and I actually made it look a little bit more like mobile, so it looks pretty good, I think. I mean, there's probably a couple things you could change to make it a little bit more detail, but for me, it turned out nicely, and really, again, fits the rest of the build as well. But hey, overall, this is a really good start for a gyrocopter. I think I should probably do a few other builds in the future around Warhammer, or even Warhammer 40k. So if you guys are familiar with that world or that universe, let me know some builds that you think you want me to make, because I think there's a ton of options, and they could be pretty interesting and very challenging. Now, that said, don't give me any of those big crazy battle cruiser things, because I don't know if I have the time for that. Anyways, that's it for me, guys. So as always, thank you so much for watching until the end of this video. As always, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We will see you in the next one.